the 59th film in the Walt Disney Animation Studios filmography, and the first original film in nearly 5 years for them. This is Raya and the Last Dragon. Hey everybody, Dan here, and this is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my channel and my standalone spoiler-free review for the new Disney film Raya and the Last Dragon. You can see this in theaters where there are theaters open, but you can also get it at home with Disney Plus with your Premier Access, and that is that you're paying the $30 you maybe shelled out for Mulan, live-action Mulan, back in the fall. They're doing it again. So if you have Disney Plus, you still have to pay the extra fee on top of that. But you know what? If you have a family, if you'd be paying 40 or 50 bucks for the tickets alone at your local multiplex, I think it makes sense to do the Premier Access. I am a single person, so I did not go ahead and do that. But anyway, let's talk about Raya and the Last Dragon. So I mentioned this is their 59th full-length feature for Walt Disney Pictures. Tangled was number 50. That was the milestone. And so each one since then has added on to that. But when I said this was the first original one in nearly 5 years, yep, we're looking back to 2016's Moana for that. Because after that, you had Ralph Breaks the Internet, which was a sequel. And then you had Frozen 2, which was a sequel. And then this would have come out in 2020 if it were not for COVID, but it didn't. So we're looking now at the first original one since Moana back in 2016. So let's talk about Raya and the Last Dragon. Like I said, this will be spoiler-free. So essentially, we start out 500 years ago in the world of Kumandra, a fictional place where humans and dragons are living together in perfect harmony. But these sinister creatures called the Droon threatened the land, and the dragons basically sacrificed themselves to save all of humanity. So now we jump ahead 500 years, and those same monsters have returned, the old Droon, and it's up to a lone warrior, Raya, to track down the last dragon named Sisu in order to finally stop the Droon for good. And with that, the land has been shifted up, or broken up, I should say, into 5 different pieces, basically representing a dragon: fang, heart, spine, talon, and tail. So we meet our heroine, Raya, when she's a bit younger, and most of the story takes place 6 years after that, when she's really on her quest for the dragon and to find all of the pieces that they need. And basically, she is played by Kelly Marie Tran, who was Rose Tico in the Star Wars series, the recent Star Wars series. Awkwafina voices Sisu the Dragon. Daniel Day Kim is Raya's father, Chief Benja, who passes away very early on in the film. I don't think that's spoiler because it's literally within the first 3 or 4 minutes of the movie. And, you know, a lot of what she hopes to accomplish by getting all of the pieces she needs is that he will be alive again. That's one of her hopes for her quest. But this is mostly an Asian American cast. Not only the people I mentioned, but Benedict Wong, Sandra Oh is here, Thyla, I think it's pronounced, Tran, and then even Lucille Soong, who was the grandmother in Fresh Off the Boat. I recognize her voice immediately. She has a role here as well. One of the only non-Asian people in the film is our good buddy Alan Tudyk, who has become sort of a good luck charm for Disney Animation Studios. He was in, I think, everything that they've done the last 6-7 years. I mean, he was King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph. Well, now, he might not have been in Ralph Breaks the Internet, I guess, because he already did a voice. But you know what? It's him, so he probably did. I just don't know it. But he was the Duke of Weaselton in Frozen. And here he voices Tuk Tuk, who isn't so much a voiced character as it is more grunts and stuff. He's a mix of an armadillo and a pill bug. And so he sort of makes more just, groans and such. But, yep, that's Alan Tudyk, our old buddy, doing that. So, all right, let's break this movie down here because it is getting a lot of buzz. It's 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone's loving this movie, right? So On the surface, the things to me that struck me kind of immediately about the premise and certain other things and aspects about it, it reminds me very much of other Disney classics in the mix. And we're going from, Mulan, and I'm not just speaking because of, the Asian aspect of it, but you've got a of the now times comedian voicing a dragon character. Of course, you had Eddie Murphy doing it in Mulan. Here we have Aquafina as Sisu, another dragon character. Some of this movie harkens even to Endgame, the Avengers film, which of course is a Disney property. And there's a lot of Disney classic princess tropes that we see throughout this story, from Moana to, I already mentioned Mulan, and some of the other ones even further back than that, some of the classics. But look, that to me is not as much of a deal breaker because it is a Disney princess story at the end of the day. It's not as much of a Disney or of a deal breaker as it is how does it all work? How is it animated? How is the voice acting? And how does it set up, itself apart from certain other films? And luckily, I think Raya and the Last Dragon does that very, very well. Let's start with the animation. This is one of the best looking animated pictures, especially with humans, that I've ever seen. I think a huge part of the CGI learning curve for animation studios is how to make people look real. They do very well with animals, they do very well with scenery and, sky and water and all of these nature things. But people, they've had issues with, I think. And for a while, I think, at least for the Disney studio, they were sort of trying to recreate some of their classic looks for the CGI age. And, maybe like Tangled, I'm thinking of, Princess Rapunzel in that. Okay. It's a very like sort of classic looking Disney princess, but I don't think anyone would accuse some of the classic Disney princesses of looking realistic. They look like animated people. That's fine. That was certainly what was going on at the time. But the people in this movie look amazing. I mean, the last time we really had live action, or not live action, but people in a Disney animated film was, I guess, Moana, because of course Zootopia was all zoo creatures. Wreck-It Ralph, I guess there's people in that, but they're designed to look like 8-bit and 16-bit video game characters anyway. So, you sort of don't get that same feeling from that. And then Moana herself looked very good, but then, the character that The Rock did was very, very cartoony in his look. But here, man, I mean, everybody looks just amazing. So the animation of the people is so very realistic, the best maybe that we've seen in an animated film. And then, look, the characters around them obviously look kind of, a little cartoony. Sisu, is a big blue-haired dragon, so obviously, but she's still animated very well. And of course, everything else, is animated well too. One other thing that I thought was great about the animation, and maybe this is more the directing too, but the fight scenes are just fantastic. I mean, the choreography in them, the directing in them, it looks so great. And it really does a lot of the time look pretty real, which is something that I think is a big accomplishment for the animated film industry. Now, in terms of the directors, let's talk about them for a second, because this was actually directed by two people, Don Hall and Carlos Lopez Estrada. Now, Carlos Lopez Estrada, I'm not super familiar with. In fact, I don't know either of these people by name, but Estrada did an amazing live action movie called Blind Spotting several years ago. I gave it an A+, just blew me away. Great movie. But Don Hall is somebody who I'm surprised I actually don't know, because he directed Winnie the Pooh from 2011, Big Hero 6, and he has, helped out in some way, either being a story artist or whatever, back with Disney since 1999's Tarzan. He's been a part of many of their movies, not every one, but, Tangled, Princess and the Frog, Meet the Robinsons, Chicken Little, Zootopia, Frozen. He had something to do with, either the story or as a creative artist or whatever. But here his directing is on point along with Estrada's, and the voice work here very good as well. Now Aquafina, I think, is a bit divisive. I think she's a bit love it or hate it because she is so distinct in her speech pattern and her voice, and she's done some animated stuff before, but she's also known, I think, for her live action roles in things like The Farewell and the Comedy Central show. Aquafina is Nora from Queens and the Ocean's 8 movie. And she's always sort of the sidekick, the side character, and she is here as well as Sisu. But she also provides most of the comic relief of this film, much like Eddie Murphy's Mushu in the original Mulan. So you've got, dragon meets dragon there. And of course, Eddie Murphy went on to even greater voice work, you could say, with, I guess maybe that's debatable, but with the donkey character in the Shrek movies. But, same kind of vibe here, a very of the now comedian doing a dragon as sort of the comic relief. One other thing I really liked about this movie, though, is the music. It's a great score, but it is not a sing-along movie. It's not a musical. And I think it's a good thing that, look, I'm fine with musicals, especially with the princess story. We see it so often, but do we see it too often? Moana was a musical, Tangled, Frozen, all of their princess stories seem to be musicals, and the ones that aren't princess stories typically are not. Zootopia had the one Shakira song, but that wasn't a musical. Wreck-It Ralph isn't a musical. Meet the Robinsons, so I'm really glad, actually, that they did not make this a musical, because this is a very dark movie, much like Mulan, not Emperor's New Groove, Hunchback of Notre Dame. I've never seen Emperor's New Groove, so maybe it is dark, but, Hunchback, Mulan, some of those, of the 90s are very dark, and I think the music sort of takes you out of what's going on and the action. And here they decided not to do that. I thought that was a wise choice, because it really lets us be invested in this story. And the story, like I said, maybe it's not the most original, but it does some very interesting things. I kind of wish it didn't come out on the heels of Trolls World Tour, because that also had the whole, original world that was divided up into different colonies. In that case, it was, the music genres, and then they all had to try and come together by the end. It's very unfortunate this came out after Trolls World Tour, because that's a far inferior movie, but, it is what it is. So maybe the story's not completely new. And also, even some of the stuff with the dragon, you've got, How to Train Your Dragon comparisons a little bit as well. So, all right. But, for everything that this movie is, I think it is one of the great princess movies that we've had in the last 25 years from Disney. I'm not a huge Frozen fan. I gave it an A because it is good, but it was so overblown that by the end of the year, I was just like, F Frozen, it's such a bad movie. It's not. It's a good movie. It definitely is a good movie. It maybe even is a great movie. I don't know. Is this up to that standard? I mean, realistically, probably not. But animation-wise, absolutely. It looks just gorgeous. And, look, it's a little comparing apples to oranges because Frozen was a musical and certainly a more traditional Disney princess story, where this one, maybe not so much, although you do have the deceased parent right at the beginning. That's a classic Disney right there, of course. But, look, I think this is a really, really good movie. Is it worth paying $30 on Disney+? If you're a single person like myself, nobody to watch it with, I would say probably not. But if you have a family, even if you're a couple, two people, $30, that's 2 movie tickets almost right there in some parts of the country, certainly. So I think it is worth the price of admission. And I wish it was a little more original, but for what it is, I really enjoyed this movie. Raya and the Last Dragon gets a B+ out of me. I think it's a very, very good movie. Disney does it again. And after stumbling a little bit, I mean, Frozen 2 was not that good. Ralph Breaks the Internet, I think I liked more than most, but that was a bit divisive. And so this, I think, is going to raise them back up to a movie that we can all get behind and talk about. And, live action Mulan was kind of a stinker. Well, it was okay, but just didn't really need to happen. And then, the second Maleficent was bad, and the Lion King remake was not good. So, this is certainly the best thing Disney has brought us in quite a bit, and I do appreciate that in terms of like a classic Disney story. So that's it. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe. Think about that if you enjoyed watching this. Hit that like button and all the rest of the stuff. We'll talk to you next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.